talking to you about coolio, context and practice. Coolio is new culture, so you're going to be finding out all about that today. I feel a little bit like I'm Uruguay in the Rugby World Cup pool of death, because the other presentations that have been in the session have been incredibly powerful. I just want to say thank you so much. I feel like I'm learning a lot myself. So in this symposium, we've been challenged to articulate just what is New Zealand design. We've been given exemplars of countries with clearly recognisable design identities. Germany with its precision, Sweden with its organic human-centredness, Italy with its elegance and luxury. We've been asked to look for and uncover our uniqueness, our design DNA. So I'm going to actually argue that looking might not actually get us very far in this endeavour. That if we're seeking clues in style or aesthetic or technical functionality of our design artefacts, we may be disappointed. Our stuff doesn't actually look that different from other nations' stuff. But design is so much more than what we see on the surface. Design, as we know, is both a noun and a verb. And there's going to be a trigger warning here. Joe Bailey, are you in the room? Joe's doing a tally of how many times number 8 wire is mentioned. And I think she'll be right, might come in there as well. I'm just letting you know, Joe, trigger warning, it's coming up again. It's not the outcomes of design, their physical manifestation that characterise our particular approach. It's not something clearly visible, a recognisable look of simplicity or honesty or straightforwardness, or a number 8 wire mentality. In fact, I'm going to argue that these very stereotypes of a New Zealand vernacular approach to design hold back the very articulation of a truly authentic design identity for Aotearoa through a simplistic narrative that privileges European male identity. I'm going to suggest that what underpins the DNA of design in Aotearoa New Zealand is its cultural and geographical context, and talk about what that might mean for design education. So by thinking about a specifically New Zealand approach to process, to user engagement and co-creation, we can start to define our unique and important contribution to broader design discourse. And we can also frame that contribution in a way that acknowledges a much broader remit than simply a Pākehā male one. I'm going to outline a model for design education that begins to address this idea and discuss its potential for the future development of design in Aotearoa, New Zealand and beyond. But I'm going to begin with an aside, a feminist strategy of non-straightforwardness to set the scene for this discussion. At the most recent incarnation, this is the beginning of a rant, at the most recent incarnation of the Best Design Awards, the big gala dinner, I was struck by the overwhelming maleness of the award recipients who took the stage. There were, of course, some women, especially in the student categories, but these were by far in the minority amidst an ocean of men in suits. Despite the fact that the significant, and I went back and checked over the photos recently just so that I wasn't imagining it. Despite the fact that the significant demographic majority of design students in this institution at least is by a country mile female. And the narratives that currently surround our design identity, number 8 wire, she'll be right, straightforward, honest, ingenuity and invention, reinforce that image of a New Zealand of wild, untamed landscapes, disciplined and colonised by pioneering white male heroes. In architectural discourse, the gendering of the story of New Zealand architecture has been well discussed. This is an infamous photograph, which some of you may know, that for 50 years was seen as representing the origins of an authentic New Zealand domestic architecture. The image, labelled Batch and King Country, simplicity, honesty, realism, when it was exhibited at the University of Auckland, acquired mythological status in 1984, yes, before some of you were born, I know, when David Mitchell presented it as a sign of pioneer beginnings and the site of the man alone of New Zealand literature in his television series, The Elegant Shed. So there's an implicit assumption in this identification of our national architecture with John Mulgan's masculine realism. As Jock Phillips has pointed out, the man alone figure, along with the literature associated with it, is a male Pākehā one. The batch and the simple, honest, straightforward quality it supposedly exemplifies is figured European male. So So just as the batch form, which still exerts a powerful force in our architectural tradition, and we even saw a photo of Ken Crossan's most recent winning entry in the Oscars of architecture, along with its descriptors, modest, honest, practical and straightforward, may need to be infiltrated by something other if it's to speak beyond its Pākehā masculine remit. So too should the number 8 wire narrative for design. New Zealand's design DNA runs so much deeper than that. It's conditioned by our place and our people. In fact, I don't think it's actually DNA that we should be concerned about at all, but rather whakapapa of our living, growing, situated design culture here in Aotearoa. So what I'm proposing is a way that we might think about just what constitutes our design whakapapa doesn't privilege the visual. I'm not suggesting that an authentic New Zealand design identity might only be recognised in kōwhaiwhai, tukutuku and whakairo, though traditional Māori art forms as physical manifestations of culture are of course hugely important to the discussion, but I'll leave others with way more expertise than I to give voice to the richness of Toi Māori. Instead, I'm interested in the way our specific cultural and geographical context might condition our approach to design as verb. Design is an expression of culture. It's an outward manifestation of the ideas, customs and social behaviour of a society or particular group of people. It's also profoundly interested in human relationships, the way we communicate with one another, how we connect, the interactions we have with the world around us, the things in it, our desires, what affects us emotionally, how we come together as individuals and communities. Here in Aotearoa we have a very particular set of cultural specificities and a history, a whakapapa of interaction and encounter between and within cultures. This is the base upon which everything is played out in this country. And it's also an incredible learning opportunity for us as designers who are deeply concerned with empathy and authentic understandings of the people and communities we work with, and a chance to craft a unique approach to the practice and discourse of design. Alongside American and Eurocentric design models of creative practice and design thinking, we might offer a deeper, richer understanding of human relationships, community endeavour, and cultural understandings to the broader world of design. So here at Toi Whārangi, the College of Creative Arts at Massey University, we've taken this idea seriously. And we've rethought the way that we incorporate Māori perspectives into the design degree, moving from a supplementary approach to a structural systems model. You have to excuse me, my mouth suddenly got really, really dry and I'm not able to develop a nuanced and distinctive approach to thinking about and practicing art and design. So prior to now, our Bachelor of Design degree, like many other design degrees around the country, included a small number of papers. One compulsory, oh thank you Chris, very good, and you didn't drop it, so that's very good. Thank you. And the remainder electives that formally included significant Māori cultural content. And these were really fantastic papers, and I'm sure that they are in other institutions around the world, around the country. And there were also individual faculty who informally incorporated Māori and Pasifika content into their teaching. So some inroads were made into giving a bicultural inflection to our programs, but due to its separation from the bulk of what was being taught, the Māori content occupied a peripheral space. The efforts of a passionate few aside, student work created in the studio did not tend to reflect back on Māori perspectives, and it was increasingly felt that Māori perspectives were marginalised through approaches that confined them to discrete parts of the curriculum. In 2010, we embarked on a really significant change to our flagship program, the Bachelor of Design with Honours. The 4-year degree, which had remained fairly constant since its inception as a university qualification in 1992, was comprehensively redeveloped. And this gave an opportunity to reflect on all aspects of the program, including the engagement with Te Ao Māori. There was a fundamental shift in the pedagogical approach away from compartmentalised fields of knowledge, those boxes that Think and Shift were talking about yesterday, within the program. And this was manifest in all aspects of the curricular redevelopment, but was perhaps most visible in the way that Māori perspectives were addressed. So what did we actually do? Well, one of the key changes in the BDS Ons was that the 6 majors that had previously been quite separate and independent of one another were now aligned in a common structure, shared content and opportunities for cross-major engagement and joint teaching. We were teaching design, not a whole lot of separate versions of it. At each year level, students from across all of the design areas would engage with the same thematic material and address it using the modes and processes of their particular field within their design briefs. So this required a unifying curricular framework that could provide the overarching scaffolding for each year. A Māori framework based on the structure and protocols of the pōhiri became this unifying scaffold for the curriculum. So as you all know, pōhiri, particularly on marae, are formal and tapu occasions with a clearly prescribed and sequential structure through which the practice of encounter and engagement are played out. Individuals and groups take on different roles throughout the temporal and spatial parts of the pōhiri, and activities with very specific purposes occur. The tangible and the intangible are woven together, and there's a heightened consciousness of this coming together of people, place and purpose in the live moment. So we chose to use a framework based on that pōhiri process to deepen our understanding, our collective understanding of the human interactions and relationships that are such a fundamental part of design process. In the framework, there are 4 phases of the pōhiri process that correspond to 4 levels of the degree, 100 to 400 from introduction to completion. And each phase has a number of associated themes which form the overarching concepts around which briefs are based for each year level. For example, in year 1, students start by exploring design through the concept of mihi, which is greetings, introductions. The brief and design outputs for example, the type studio paper is quite different from that of the dress studio paper. But students are developing understanding of an aspect of engagement and encounter alongside their understanding of idea generation, process, prototyping and refinement. And you can see that developing this cultural understanding is not about replicating or appropriating visual and material cultural forms. It's about understanding what gives rise to these forms in the first place. And of course, it's only a beginning. We are still learning. And it's not been easy or smooth, especially because we don't actually have a huge amount of Māori staff. Faculty were initially extremely nervous about getting things wrong and felt really uncomfortable with their lack of expertise. Ongoing support and development is a vital part of making this framework more than just an institutional token gesture or a set of interesting conceptual ideas, and there's a long way to go. Capacity needs to be developed throughout our college rather than relying on a small handful of Māori staff to have the responsibility for holding that framework and being the cultural experts from whom everyone else seeks advice. But we've come a really long way, and I have incredible respect for my colleagues who've taken this on. So embedding Māori perspectives into the BD's ONS curriculum in a central and structural rather than peripheral way, the intent is to develop designers and artists who understand the value of Aotearoa's cultural context and create work that is enriched by that understanding. This is not merely to address government priorities, although that's obviously an important thing too, but comes from a genuine belief that a Māori worldview offers a unique perspective to the wider discipline of design that can enhance practice. By understanding the nature of encounter through the pōhiri process, it's possible to gain new insights into leadership, collaboration and relationship to context that may contribute a uniquely New Zealand perspective to broader understandings of design and its social, cultural, environmental, economic and political impact. Kia ora.